In my mid-20s, I had pretty well settled into a comfortable career drawing fashion in New York, and I was very happy. It was a period when fashion was very of the moment in New York. New York was throbbing with fashion. And I was addicted, like everybody else in the industry, to Women's Wear Daily. And one of the reasons I loved Women's Wear Daily was not only because they gave you a big overview, but because they were as addicted to Saint Laurent, Yves Saint Laurent, as I was addicted to them. And one night the phone rang, and it was a friend of mine who was an illustrator at Women's Wear Daily. And he had a job that he couldn't handle. And he said, could you possibly do me a favor and do this for me? It's just one dress. If you could do that and deliver it to this address in the morning, it'd be great. So I said, sure, I'd be happy to do it. So they sent the dress down, and when I took it out of the garment bag, it was the fag illustrator's dream dress. It was just a shaft of black velvet with white feathers around the throat and cuffs. It was Bill Blass. And so I did it in an hour. And the next morning I got up and I delivered it to where I was supposed to deliver it. And I was quite surprised to find it was the Christian Science Monitor. What I didn't know was that the next morning, the Christian Science Monitor was instituting a fashion department. And so they ran the sketch full size on a New York Times size newspaper. It was the only thing on the front page with "We're in fashion." And of course it went to every editor, every possible outlet, because these people were trying to make inroads into the fashion world and they wanted, access. So very shortly thereafter, I received an offer from the Christian Science Monitor to do the collections in Europe. I went to Paris. Well, I was so excited I could die. I had been to Paris once before and I was already head over heels with it. So anyway, the second day that I was there, like 8:30 in the morning, my phone rang, and it was the editor I was working with, and she said, great news, we're going to do an interview with Yves Saint Laurent, and we sent them some of your work, and he's agreed for you to draw him. And I said, right there? And she said, yes. And I said, oh my God. And now I was in the same room with him, and he was so incredible looking. He had the shiniest hair I ever saw, and he was just beautiful and incredibly nice and extremely courteous. He had a Chihuahua named Hazel who kept running back and forth over the desk, and I was scared she was going to spill my ink, but she didn't. And I did the drawing, which took at least an hour and a half. And he couldn't have been more polite, more pleasant, and more patient. And it was just, when I walked out of there, my knees were wobbly. When you come from a childhood that's not very elaborate, or, as a matter of fact, poor, to define it properly, a deprived childhood, I think that that's the best incentive to make you into a self-starter. As a freelance artist, if I don't have a job, I still go to the drawing table and start something, and it always develops into something bigger than a job would have been anyway. I'm not just going to sit around and wait for people. I'm just going to do something. And that's basically my work philosophy.